Hi guys, and welcome back to my flight channel, where we will be revealing the most bizarre events that happened in aviation history. You may have heard about the crash of Hughes Airwest Flight 706, the first fatal crash of commercial airliner in the United States, involving two aircrafts, where 50 people died, and the only survivor was the officer from the second aircraft. The story of this fatal crash was also featured on the 13th season of the famous Canadian TV series Mayday in an episode entitled Speed Trap. But let's dig into its backstory and see the real cause of the accident. The incident happened on June 6, 1971 at 1811 Pacific Time. The site of mid-collision was San Gabriel Mountains, Los Angeles County in California, USA. What were the routes of the clashing airplanes? First aircraft was McDonnell Douglas DC-9-31 that was operated by Hughes Airwest. The aircraft departed from Los Angeles right after 6 p.m. It had about 5 stopovers: Salt Lake City in Utah, Boise and Lewiston in Idaho, Pasco and Yakima in Washington, and the ultimate destination was Seattle, Washington. The second aircraft in the clash was the F-4B Phantom II that was operated by the U.S. Marine Corps. History of the aircrafts. You all must know these facts about both aircrafts. Hughes Airwest's captain, Theodore Nicolay, age 50, had logged 15,490 hours of total flying time, including 2,562 hours in DC-9s, when the plane crashed. First Officer Price Bruner, 49, had 17,128 gross hours of flight time and 272 hours in DC-9s as his co-pilot. On the other side, the Navy aircraft F-4B-18MC Phantom II of the United States Marine Corps, Bureau number 151458, coded 458, had been in service since April 15, 1964. It was assigned to Marine Fighter Attack Squadron 323, Marine Aircraft Group 11, 3rd Marine Air Wing at the time of the crash, though it had previously been controlled by different squadrons. Casualties. The aircraft Douglas DC-9-31 was carrying 41 passengers and 5 members of the crew. The National Transportation Safety Board found that no passenger on board the Hughes Airwest DC-9 could have survived the plane's collision, disintegration, and crash. Despite the fact that both crash sites were engulfed in flames, the NTSB concluded that all the victims died in the crash. Meanwhile, in the Navy plane, there were 2 fighter pilots. Out of them, 1 survived. How did the aircrafts collide? Guys, let's see which aircraft was faulty. The U.S. Marine Corps' McDonnell Douglas F-4B Phantom took off from Naval Auxiliary Air Station Fallon at 1716 for a low-altitude flight to MCAS El Toro. The plane had a variety of technical problems, including a malfunctioning transponder and a leak in the oxygen tank. The crew climbed to 15,500 feet due to the deteriorating visibility northwest of Palmdale. The aircraft was 50 miles from MCAS El Toro shortly after leveling off. At this stage, the pilot performed a 360-degree aileron roll, which took about 3 seconds to complete. The true airspeed during the climb and after leveling off, according to the radar intercept officer, was 420 knots. As the fighter flew to NAS Fallon in Nevada, Lieutenant Phillips obtained permission from his supervisors to fly the F-4B with an inoperative transponder. The oxygen leak intensified until the system was completely disabled. Meanwhile, the radar intercept officer, Lieutenant Scheiss, was controlling the fighter's radar. He was making constant efforts to reconnect with the pilot, but due to its deteriorated state, was unable to detect any aircraft. He had been leaning forward and gazing downward at the instrument due to the scope's stowed location. The radar intercept officer looked up between 3 and 10 seconds before the collision and saw the DC-9 in his peripheral vision, shouting a warning to the pilot. The pilot attempted an evasive roll, but was unable to avoid colliding with the approaching airliner. Around 1 minute and 20 seconds after the roll, the F-4B collided with the Airwest DC-9 at 15,150 feet. The F-4 started to tumble violently along its lateral axis after the collision. The RIO waited about 5 seconds before ejecting from the plane after seeing multiple warning lights in the cockpit. The ejection was successful, and he safely parachuted to the ground, although the pilot didn't survive. Where did the wreckage of the aircrafts go? Both aircrafts and debris fell to the steep slopes of Mount Bliss and neighboring Fish Canyon after the crash. The main wreckage of the 2 planes was spread out over a 2-square-mile field. The DC-9 went down in a canyon of around 600 slopes. This area included the structure from Fuselage Station 427 aft, including wings and empennage. One portion of the P-4E's aft fuselage had become entangled in electrical wiring, which was also discovered at the DC-9 crash site. The DC-9's PS-318 and FS-1099 were linked by this piece. The main wreckage of the F-4B was discovered 3/4 of a mile southeast of the DC-9 in another canyon. The center line of the right outer wing was the only significant structure not known at this time. What did the eyewitnesses say? According to some eyewitnesses, after executing a barrel roll, the F-4B's left wing allegedly collided with the middle of the airliner's fuselage. Another eyewitness said that the F-4B ripped a large hole in the fuselage of the DC-9, through which papers and luggage streamed as the crippled airliner fell. Mike Zarate, a United States Forest Service fire dispatcher, mentioned this to the news reporters that he heard an explosion and saw colossal flame. He also said that the plane had exploded, and when it hit the ground, very heavy black smoke came from the site. People of Duarte were also instigated about the incident. One of the eyewitnesses said that, "I heard a boom and saw flaming objects going behind the mountain. It exploded again when it was behind the mountain. I was working in the store and the explosion shook the big picture window. Everybody thought it was an earthquake." Investigation. The incident was investigated by the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, with support from the Marine Corps, the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, Hughes Airwest, and the Airline Pilots Association. According to early NTSB statements, the F-4B fighter attempted to swerve away from the DC-9 just before impact, and that an extra 10 feet of clearance would have prevented the entire collision. The NTSB also confirmed that the fighter had collided with the DC-9 in two places, with the fighter's left wing colliding with the airliner's forward passenger cabin and the vertical stabilizer, slicing through the cockpit. The aircraft had an inoperative radio, inoperative transponder, an oxygen system leak, and a degraded radar system, according to diagnostic tests conducted at Mountain Home. Although maintenance staff were able to fix the radio and confirm the oxygen leak, the base lacked the personnel required to repair the transponder or radar. What were the possible causes of clash? NTSB released a report on August 30, 1972, in which they said, "The National Transportation Safety Board determines that the probable cause of this accident was the failure of both crews to see and avoid each other, but recognizes that they had only marginal capability to detect, assess, and avoid the collision. Other causal factors include a very high closure rate, commingling of IFR and VFR traffic in an area where the limitation of the ATC system precludes effective separation of such traffic, and failure of the crew of the BuNo 458 to request radar advisory service, particularly considering the fact that they had an inoperable transponder." Final report of the incident. After the final investigations, it was figured out that the pilots of both the aircrafts were qualified. BuNo 450 was not observed on radar due to cross-section, low-level temperature, and an inoperative transponder, as well as an inversion in the region caused by aircraft radar. The passenger's aircraft was operating in accordance with Los Angeles ARTCC IFR flight plan under radar control of the Los Angeles ARTCC. On the other side, BuNo 458 was operating in accordance with a VFR flight plan and was not under radar control of the ATC system. The pilot of the BuNo 450 exercised poor judgment in performing an aileron roll, but the roll did not contribute to the accident. Both aircrafts were theoretically big enough for each other to detect 35 seconds before colliding. However, because of the high closure rate, the detection and assessment was compromised. This is all about the clash, guys. I hope you liked this video. Please share and give a thumbs up. Also, let us know in the comments section which topics from us you'd want to hear next. Thanks for watching.